A smart woman begins by understanding that clarity is not a personality trait, it is a practiced discipline. She does not wait for confidence to arrive before she acts. She acts in ways that build confidence through evidence. Behavioral psychology teaches us that the brain believes what behavior repeatedly proves, and this is where intelligence quietly separates itself from noise. A smart woman observes her own reactions with curiosity instead of judgment. She notices where her emotions spike, where her attention drifts, where her energy leaks, and she treats this information like data rather than a verdict on her worth. This internal clarity becomes her anchor. When you know how you think, why you react, and what patterns govern your choices, you stop being easily influenced. You no longer need to announce your strength because your decisions begin to reflect it. Calm replaces urgency. Precision replaces impulse. And slowly, without forcing it, your presence starts to feel grounded, composed, and unmistakably intentional. Self-awareness is not self-criticism, and this distinction is critical. Many women are taught to scan themselves constantly for flaws, mistaking awareness for self-surveillance. A smart woman does the opposite. She studies herself the way a strategist studies terrain, not to shame it, but to navigate it effectively. She understands her strengths without exaggeration and her weaknesses without drama. She knows that emotional discipline begins with naming what is happening internally before it controls her behavior. When frustration arises, she does not immediately speak. When fear shows up, she does not immediately retreat. She creates a pause, and in that pause, she gains leverage. Psychology shows us that the space between stimulus and response is where power lives. This is not suppression, it is mastery. By practicing this pause daily, even in small moments, she trains her nervous system to tolerate discomfort without collapsing or attacking. That tolerance becomes quiet intelligence. A smart woman also understands that mindset is not about positivity. It is about accuracy. She does not lie to herself to feel better, and she does not catastrophize to feel prepared. She seeks clear-eyed truth. This means she evaluates situations based on facts, patterns, and probabilities rather than hopes or fears. She asks herself better questions instead of demanding easier answers. What is actually within my control here? What am I avoiding because it challenges my identity? What evidence do I have? Not what story am I telling myself? This kind of thinking requires emotional courage because it dismantles comforting illusions. But it also builds resilience. When your expectations are aligned with reality, disappointment loses its power to destabilize you. You recover faster, adapt quicker, and stop taking outcomes personally. Intelligence grows when ego shrinks, and a smart woman is willing to be wrong long enough to become wiser. Discipline, for a smart woman, is not rigidity. It is alignment. She does not force herself into habits that drain her. She designs systems that support who she is becoming. Behavioral science tells us that willpower is unreliable, but structure is dependable. So she simplifies decisions, protects her mornings, and limits exposure to chaos masquerading as entertainment. She understands that attention is a finite resource, and whatever consistently consumes it will shape her thinking. This is why she becomes selective about what she listens to, what she reads, and who has access to her mental space. Over time, her inner dialogue becomes steadier, less reactive, more grounded in reason. She stops negotiating with distractions that lead nowhere. This is not about being harsh with herself. It is about being honest. Every boundary she sets with the world begins as a boundary within her own mind. A smart woman reframes failure as feedback, not identity. She does not dramatize mistakes, nor does she dismiss them. She analyzes them. What decision led here? What assumption was incorrect? What emotion influenced my choice? This analytical approach prevents shame from taking over the learning process. Neuroscience shows that shame shuts down problem solving, while curiosity activates it. By staying curious, she stays adaptable. She does not rush to explain herself or seek validation when things go wrong. She adjusts quietly and moves forward with improved strategy. This ability to self-correct without self-destructing is a form of intelligence that cannot be taught easily, but it can be practiced daily. Each time she chooses reflection over reaction, she strengthens a mindset rooted in growth rather than defense. Emotional regulation is another cornerstone of her intelligence. She does not deny her feelings, but she refuses to be led by them. She understands that emotions are signals, not commands. Anger may indicate a violated value, fear may highlight risk, sadness may signal loss, but none of these require immediate action. By allowing emotions to rise and fall without attaching her identity to them, she maintains internal stability. This stability becomes visible in how she handles pressure. When others escalate, she slows down. When situations become chaotic, her voice remains measured. This is not emotional coldness, it is emotional maturity. People trust those who are not easily hijacked by their moods. And more importantly, she learns to trust herself. That self-trust becomes the foundation of confident decision-making. A smart woman is deeply aware of her internal narratives. She knows that the stories she repeats silently will eventually dictate her behavior. If she tells herself she must be liked to be safe, she will overextend. If she tells herself conflict equals danger, she will self-abandon. So she challenges these narratives with logic and lived experience. She replaces vague fears with specific assessments. Instead of saying, "This will go wrong," she asks, "What exactly could go wrong, and how would I handle it?" This shift transforms anxiety into preparation. Cognitive psychology shows that specificity reduces fear because the brain can plan. Through this practice, she becomes less reactive to uncertainty and more capable of navigating it. Her confidence no longer depends on certainty, but on competence. Internal clarity also means knowing her values and letting them guide decisions. A smart woman does not adopt values because they sound impressive. She chooses them because they are sustainable. She knows what she prioritizes, what she will not compromise, and what she is willing to work toward patiently. This clarity simplifies life. Decisions become less emotionally taxing when they are filtered through values instead of moods. When faced with a difficult choice, she asks which option aligns with who she respects herself for being. This internal compass prevents regret. Even when outcomes are imperfect, she knows she acted in integrity. That knowledge brings peace that external approval never could. Over time, this alignment builds quiet authority in how she moves through the world. She also understands the importance of solitude. Not isolation, but intentional time alone to think without interference. In silence, she processes experiences, integrates lessons, and recalibrates. Constant stimulation dulls discernment, but reflection sharpens it. A smart woman is comfortable being alone with her thoughts because she has trained them to be constructive rather than cruel. She journals, walks, thinks, and listens inwardly. This practice strengthens intuition, which is not mystical, but the brain's ability to recognize patterns quickly based on stored experience. When intuition is grounded in self-awareness and discipline, it becomes a powerful decision-making tool. She learns to trust it without surrendering logic. Ultimately, becoming a smart woman is not about proving intelligence to others. It is about living in a way that consistently reduces chaos and increases clarity. It is about choosing long-term stability over short-term relief, understanding over assumption, and strategy over impulse. This mindset does not make life easier, but it makes it cleaner. Fewer regrets, fewer unnecessary battles, fewer emotional hangovers. With internal clarity established, she moves through life less explainable and more effective. She does not rush, she does not chase, and she does not beg circumstances to cooperate. She adjusts herself, sharpens her thinking, and allows her actions to speak quietly on her behalf. As internal clarity strengthens, a smart woman naturally turns her attention to how she relates to others, because intelligence is not only private, it is relational. Emotional intelligence becomes the bridge between self-awareness and the external world. She understands that every interaction carries emotional information, whether spoken or not, and she learns to read it without absorbing it. Instead of reacting to tone, she listens for intent. Instead of taking behavior personally, she looks for patterns. Psychology teaches that people act from their own unmet needs, fears, and conditioning, and a smart woman keeps this perspective close. It prevents unnecessary offense and emotional entanglement. She does not excuse poor behavior, but she also does not internalize it. This balance allows her to stay grounded while remaining perceptive, which is a rare and powerful combination. One of the clearest signs of emotional intelligence is the ability to manage boundaries without aggression or apology. A smart woman understands that boundaries are not walls, they are filters. They clarify what is acceptable and what is not, without requiring explanation to everyone. She does not overjustify her limits, because she knows that excessive explanation often invites negotiation. Instead, she communicates boundaries calmly and consistently. Behavioral psychology shows that consistency trains others how to treat us more than intensity ever will. She does not need to raise her voice to be heard, nor does she need to withdraw to be respected. Her steadiness sends a clear message. This is where I stand. Over time, people either adjust or distance themselves, and she accepts both outcomes without resentment. Emotional discipline plays a crucial role here. A smart woman resists the urge to correct, convince, or control others emotionally. She understands that not every misunderstanding needs resolution, and not every disrespect deserves a response. Silence, when chosen consciously, can be a form of strength rather than avoidance. She evaluates whether engagement will lead to understanding or simply drain her energy. This discernment protects her emotional reserves. Neuroscience tells us that chronic emotional arousal exhausts the nervous system, leading to impulsive decisions and burnout. By choosing when to engage and when to step back, she preserves her mental clarity. Her calm becomes selective, not passive, and that selectivity reflects maturity. She also learns to recognize emotional manipulation without becoming cynical. Guilt tripping, gaslighting, excessive flattery, and manufactured urgency are tactics used when someone wants to bypass your judgment. A smart woman slows down in the presence of emotional pressure. She notices how her body responds, how her thoughts narrow, how urgency replaces reason. These are signals. Instead of reacting defensively, she regains control by asking for time, clarity, or space. She understands that genuine requests can withstand patience, while manipulation collapses under delay. This ability to slow the interaction restores her power. She does not accuse or dramatize. She simply refuses to be rushed into decisions that compromise her values. Empathy, for a smart woman, does not mean self-sacrifice. She can understand someone's pain without taking responsibility for fixing it. This distinction is essential. Many emotionally intelligent women become overextended because they confuse compassion with obligation. A smart woman listens deeply, validates feelings, and still maintains her limits. She knows that rescuing others often prevents them from developing their own resilience. Psychology shows that enabling behavior, even when well-intentioned, can reinforce dependency. By stepping back appropriately, she allows others to take ownership of their choices. This approach is not cold. It is respectful. It honors both her needs and theirs. Conflict is another arena where emotional intelligence reveals itself. A smart woman does not avoid conflict, but she reframes it. She sees it as information, not a threat. When disagreement arises, she focuses on the issue rather than the person. She uses language that is precise rather than accusatory, grounded rather than emotional. She understands that escalation often comes from unmet needs for being heard or understood, so she listens without surrendering her position. This balance disarms defensiveness. Research in communication psychology shows that people are more open to feedback when they feel respected, even if they disagree. By maintaining composure, she increases the likelihood of productive outcomes. She also knows when to disengage completely. Emotional intelligence includes recognizing when a dynamic is consistently unhealthy. Patterns of disrespect, dismissal, or emotional volatility are data points, not challenges to overcome. A smart woman does not romanticize endurance. She understands that loyalty to her well-being is not betrayal of others. When she steps away, she does so cleanly, without excessive explanation or lingering emotional hooks. This ability to exit gracefully protects her dignity. It also reinforces her self-respect, because she proves to herself that she will not stay where she is diminished. Another important aspect of emotional intelligence is emotional transparency with oneself. A smart woman does not suppress resentment, sadness, or disappointment until it leaks out sideways. She processes emotions privately before expressing them publicly. This might mean journaling, reflection, or quiet conversation with someone she trusts. By doing this internal work first, she ensures that when she does speak, her words are intentional rather than reactive. This prevents regret. Emotional regulation is not about silence, it is about timing. Speaking from clarity rather than heat preserves relationships and self-respect simultaneously. She also becomes aware of how her emotional state influences her perception. Fatigue, stress, and overwhelm distort judgment. A smart woman factors this into her decision-making. She avoids making major choices when emotionally depleted. She rests, recalibrates, and returns to decisions with a steadier mind. This is not procrastination. It is strategic patience. Cognitive science confirms that emotional exhaustion reduces impulse control and increases risk-taking. By honoring her limits, she protects herself from unnecessary mistakes. Boundaries extend beyond people to environments. A smart woman curates her surroundings to support emotional stability. She reduces exposure to constant negativity, drama, and comparison. She understands that what she repeatedly consumes becomes her internal climate. By choosing environments that are calm, growth-oriented, and respectful, she reinforces her emotional discipline. This might mean changing routines, distancing from certain social circles, or limiting digital consumption. These choices may feel uncomfortable at first, but they create long-term peace. Emotional intelligence is not only how you respond, but what you allow yourself to be surrounded by. She also practices emotional honesty in her closest relationships. A smart woman does not perform or pretend to be unaffected. She communicates needs clearly and early, without blame. She understands that unspoken expectations are breeding grounds for resentment. By expressing herself calmly, she gives others the opportunity to respond consciously rather than guess. This transparency builds trust. It also filters out relationships that cannot meet her at that level. Over time, her connections become fewer but deeper, marked by mutual respect rather than emotional chaos. Ultimately, emotional intelligence and boundaries allow a smart woman to move through relationships without losing herself. She does not harden, but she does not soften to the point of self-erasure. Her emotional world becomes stable, spacious, and intentional. She is not ruled by fear of abandonment or need for approval. Instead, she operates from self-respect. This foundation prepares her for the final evolution of intelligence, how she communicates, chooses, and designs her life strategically in ways that reflect maturity rather than impulse. As emotional intelligence becomes embodied rather than intellectual, a smart woman begins to communicate with intention instead of urgency. She understands that words are tools, not emotional outlets, and she chooses them with care. Strategic communication is not about manipulation, it is about clarity, timing, and restraint. She does not speak to relieve anxiety or prove her worth. She speaks when her message will land cleanly and when silence would dilute her position. This awareness transforms how she is perceived. People listen more closely when words are measured, and they trust more deeply when communication is consistent. Psychology shows that credibility is built not through volume, but through coherence. When her words align with her actions over time, she becomes someone others take seriously without her demanding to be taken seriously. A smart woman also understands the power of listening. She listens not to respond, but to understand structure, motives, and gaps. In conversations, she notices what is emphasized, what is avoided, and what is repeated. This gives her insight into what truly matters to the other person. Strategic listening allows her to respond accurately rather than emotionally. She does not rush to fill silence, because she knows silence often reveals more than speech. In negotiations, relationships, and everyday interactions, this patience gives her leverage. She gathers information before offering her position. This approach prevents misunderstandings and reduces the likelihood of reactive commitments she might later regret. When she does assert herself, she does so calmly and directly. A smart woman avoids excessive qualifiers and emotional justifications. She does not over-explain because she understands that clarity does not require persuasion. Her statements are grounded, respectful, and firm. She communicates expectations without threat and disagreement without hostility. Behavioral psychology shows that people are more likely to respect boundaries when they are communicated simply and consistently. By removing emotional charge from her delivery, she reduces defensiveness in others. This makes her communication not only intelligent, but effective. Strategic decision-making becomes central to how she designs her life. A smart woman does not base major choices on temporary feelings or external pressure. She evaluates long-term consequences, opportunity costs, and alignment with her values. She understands that every yes carries an invisible no, and she chooses deliberately. This means she may move slower than others, but she moves with fewer reversals. She does not confuse urgency with importance. By giving herself permission to pause, reflect, and assess, she avoids decisions that require emotional cleanup later. This foresight is a form of intelligence that protects her energy, time, and dignity. She also becomes selective about where she invests effort. A smart woman recognizes diminishing returns. Not every situation improves with more effort, more explanation, or more patience. Some dynamics reveal themselves clearly over time, and she believes what she sees. Strategic maturity means withdrawing from paths that consistently drain her, even if she once believed in them. Letting go is not failure, it is recalibration. Psychology confirms that perseverance without adaptability leads to burnout, not success. By adjusting course when necessary, she demonstrates wisdom rather than stubbornness. In her personal and professional life, she prioritizes environments that reward integrity, competence, and growth. A smart woman understands that potential thrives in supportive systems. She does not rely on hope alone, she evaluates structure. Does this environment encourage learning? Is effort recognized? Are values aligned? These questions guide her choices. She knows that intelligence flourishes where it is respected. By placing herself in spaces that reflect her standards, she reduces the need to constantly defend or explain herself. Her energy shifts from survival to expansion. She also understands the importance of reputation, not as image management, but as a reflection of consistent behavior. A smart woman knows that how she handles pressure, conflict, and responsibility is remembered long after words are forgotten. She acts in ways she can stand behind privately. This integrity simplifies decision-making because she does not need to manage contradictions. Over time, her reliability becomes her influence. People trust those whose behavior is predictable in the best sense, steady, fair, and grounded. This trust opens doors that force never could. Strategic living also means accepting uncertainty without panic. A smart woman does not need to control every outcome to feel safe. She prepares where she can and adapts where she must. She understands that life will test her, and she trusts her capacity to respond intelligently. This confidence is quiet and resilient. It is not rooted in guarantees, but in self-knowledge. She has faced discomfort before and survived with her values intact. That memory becomes her anchor when the future feels unclear. She also refrains from making her life a performance. A smart woman does not need constant validation or visibility to feel accomplished. She measures progress internally through growth, alignment, and peace of mind. This frees her from comparison. She understands that comparison distorts perception and distracts from purpose. By focusing on her own trajectory, she builds a life that feels authentic rather than impressive. This authenticity is magnetic because it is rare. It reflects maturity, not insecurity. As she integrates strategic communication and intentional choices, her life begins to feel less reactive and more designed. She spends less time recovering from decisions and more time building toward meaningful goals. Her relationships are cleaner, her boundaries clearer, and her direction steadier. She does not need to announce her intelligence because it is evident in how she moves, speaks, and chooses. Becoming a smart woman is not about perfection. It is about coherence. Thought, emotion, and action begin to align. In the end, the smartest woman in the room is rarely the loudest or the most visible. She is the one who understands herself, regulates her emotions, communicates with purpose, and chooses her life with intention. She does not rush to be understood, and she does not fear being underestimated. She trusts that consistency will speak on her behalf. This kind of intelligence does not demand attention. It earns respect. And as she continues to refine it, her life becomes not only smarter, but calmer, stronger, and deeply self-directed.